Today we're going to talk about the poison vibration. We're going to talk about the vibration of total powerlessness. All self-worth issues stem from one thought. That thought is, I am not enough. I am not enough without the things that I do to justify my existence here on this planet. So how can you go about discovering your own self-worth, which will move you into self-esteem and will move you into the vibration of self-love? You need to ask yourself, how am I enough? So often we focus on what we aren't instead of what we are. If you're focused on lack, you get nothing more than lack, and so you have to take your attention off of your deficiencies. You have to shift into thoughts of appreciation of yourself. I'm going to explain quickly what I mean by replacing thoughts. All that a belief is a thought that's been thought over and over again, so much so that it no longer takes effort to think that thought. So we call it, at this point, subconscious. When you find these limiting beliefs, you tell your brain, okay, now today what you're going to do is an activity where you look for proof of your own worth. You basically create a situation where you are telling your brain to look for the aspects which it can appreciate, which add to the idea of self-worth, or which reinforce any belief you're trying to replace. And the more often that you think those beliefs, the more neural pathways will be formed to those new thoughts, and pretty soon it will take no effort to think them. I know that many of you are a bit frustrated that this takes so much work. It's not like I'm just handing you a pill, but the answer to everything in this life is choose a new thought to think, choose a better feeling thought, and your overall vibration will change, and the minute that that happens, you will be manifesting new proof into your life of new realities. The next thing you want to do is to avoid certain types of thinking. Thoughts like comparisons with others, personalizing other people's reactions to you, blaming others, jumping to worst-case scenarios. I feel worthless, therefore I must be worthless. When you catch yourself thinking any of these ways that I've just mentioned, you've got to stop yourself in that moment, and in that awareness of that thought which you just held, figure out which thought would be a better thought to hold relative to that subject. Pretend that you are talking to a friend. Say that friend presented the very thought which you just came up with to you. A thought like, I feel worthless, I must be worthless. What would you say to that friend? And you have to start replacing your own thought patterns in the same way that you often replace other people's thought patterns when they present you with a limiting thought or a limiting belief. An example of a thought which is a limiting thought, something which pulls you in opposition to self-love, would be, that person hates me. So if you have a thought like that, in that moment you could stop yourself and say, well, that's assuming. In reality, I have no idea what he's gone through today. He might just be in an incredibly unhappy mood because of something that occurred earlier today. That's the example of replacing a prior thought, that person hates me, with a new improved thought. Really, that's just assuming. He could have been hurt by somebody who I remind him of, and it has nothing to do with me. Another good technique you can use is meditating on core affirming thoughts. You can pick a thought which feels good for you to think relative to yourself and repeat it to yourself while you're in meditation, almost like a mantra, and let yourself sink into the vibration of the words. Another good way of doing this is to record yourself saying core affirming thoughts, and then put your earphones on at night, and while you're slipping into a state of subconscious, when your brain is no longer in judgment mode, therefore more apt to receive subliminal messages, you can play this list of yourself talking to yourself with core affirming thoughts. It will amaze you how fabulous your emotions will be when you wake up in the morning after having done something like that. Pick the thoughts which feel good to you, which you really do line up with, meaning you really do believe. So I may not instantly be able to go into the vibration of I love myself, but I might think that I value myself because I care. That thought may feel good to me to think, and it's something that all of me lines up with. And the more you pick these better feeling thoughts, pretty soon down the line, you can say, I love myself, and really mean it. There won't be any hesitation when you come up with that affirmation. I think the last one that I'm going to leave you with today in terms of practices is one that I used on myself in the very beginning of my healing. Water is H2O. It will always be H2O. But how those H2O molecules arrange themselves or structurize themselves changes based on what the water is around. Therefore, if you have a glass of water, or anything with water in it, which is, as you know, it's food as well, it's humans, we're 70+% water, so if you're going to drink something or eat something, my favorite is to do this with a glass of water, what you want to do is put your hands on either side of the glass and focus the vibration of true appreciation into that water. If it helps you to come up with the feeling of really loving someone that you have loved in the past, whatever thought it takes for you to generate that extreme emotion of self-love, or not self-love, that extreme emotion of love of something else, you can project that into the water. Visualize that sensation flowing through you into the glass of water. You want to hold this thought and this practice for about 2 to 3 minutes. The longer the better. And then I want you to drink the water. If you can make this a practice every day, you will literally be restructuring the water of your own body, water which has been poisoned with the thoughts of self-deprecation and criticizing and all these kinds of thoughts which you've probably been thinking, which diminish your sense of self-worth. The first time that I did this in my personal life, I was sitting in such a strong attitude of self-hate after years and years of abuse and self-torture after that, that when I drank that water, I broke down. The first 3 times I ended up on the floor breaking down because it was such a huge discordance between that vibration I was putting into my body and what I had been feeding it over years and years. But after about 3 months of doing that, I was able to come up with these core affirming thoughts for the first time, and I didn't feel guilty about saying them. So I would love you to try it, but believe me when I tell you, this can be one of the most life-changing things that you can possibly interject into your day-to-day life. It's my desire that you talk your way into your own beliefs about worth. It's my desire that those beliefs are in line with what's a benefit to you and never a limit to you. But I'm going to talk to you for a minute about worth with respects to how it is seen universally. Your worth is like a light. Anything you do in your life is nothing but a showcase of that light. If it's a beneficial thing that you're doing, if it's some sort of success which you have achieved, all that is like a stained glass, which is allowing that light to express itself in beautiful ways. And anything you've done, anybody you've hurt in this life, anything that you don't feel proud of, is nothing but dirt or filament in front of that light. But the light is always there. It doesn't matter whether you're a Hitler or a Mother Teresa. At your core, you are a unique, eternal, infinite, precious, valuable, and good person. You are, in other words, an endless sea of potential, which is completely unchanging. You can't add to it and you cannot take away from it. You had as much worth and potential today as you did when you were born, and you will have as much worth and potential the day you die as you did when you were born. Your worth didn't go anywhere. You can't get rid of or lose something that's eternal. The reality is that worth is eternal. Remember that you are wonderful. You are of infinite worth, even if all you did for the rest of your life was sit in a vegetable state. You do not need to justify your life. You are enough. You are enough exactly as you are in this very moment and every moment. Oh, God. The subject is a relatively emotional one for me, seeing as how I struggled with self-worth so much, and I understand what can come of really finding it. When you focus towards yourself and others with an attitude of searching what to appreciate instead of what to condemn, you will come to know this worth, which is inherently yours. You will come to know joy for the first time. And this is my desire for all of you. This is my desire for all people on this earth. So good luck.